Morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on a wonderful Wednesday. Don't forget, we got men's Bible study at 10 a.m. We've got prayer meeting tonight at 6, children and youth activities too. We are meeting in the fellowship hall for the summer. We've got our brown bag lunch at 5, or dinner at 5. So bring your meal and come and join us. Then we'll fellowship and have Bible study. But right now, I want you to join me in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, picking up in verse 11. Remember, Paul's been trying to get his point across to the Corinthian people that he really is an apostle, and he came to them with love in his heart to minister to them and to help them to grow in their faith. And he started down this path about the experiences he had and the reasons, the right that he had to boast. And I got to tell you, what we've talked about over the last couple of days gives him bragging rights. But he said, I won't boast in those things, but instead I'll boast in the infirmities and all of the things that make him stronger. But now, picking up in verse 11, he says, I have become a fool in boasting. You have compelled me. It's your fault, he says. You're the ones that made me do it. You pushed me into this. He said, I've become a fool for boasting, for I ought to have been commended by you. Now, he's not looking for praise. He's not looking for them to say, man, you're the best, Paul. No, what he wants them to recognize is that he is the apostle to the Gentiles. God called. They should have recognized that. They should have acknowledged that. They should have listened to him. He said, for nothing was I behind the most eminent apostles, though I am nothing. Again, everybody was comparing him to Peter and James and John and the apostles that had walked with Jesus. And they were saying, well, you can't be an apostle because you didn't walk with Jesus during his earthly ministry. Well, Paul's calling came a little bit later. Paul's calling was a little bit different on the road to Damascus, but he was called by God. And that's what matters. Listen, if you're going to argue this with God, I think. That's kind of the idea here. Paul says, but I am nothing. He said, I'm nothing special. Because remember, he's in Philippians, he said, I threw all of those things behind, just threw them away, those things that I could brag about. He said that in essence, I'm nothing. And at the beginning of his letter to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, he said, God chooses the foolish to confound the wise, the weak to confound the strong. And he said, God chose me because he knew that he could work through me as an instrument. And people would say, man, that has to be God working. All right. So he says, truly, verse 12, truly the signs of an apostle were accomplished among you with all perseverance in signs and wonders and mighty deeds. For what is it in which you were inferior to other churches, except that I myself was not burdensome to you? Forgive me this wrong. A little bit of sarcasm there again. And Paul did. When he came, God used him and performed miracles through him, and things happened that could not be explained in any other way other than the fact that God was working, which, by the way, is what a miracle is. God breaking the natural laws, bringing the supernatural world into play, doing things that nobody expects. Paul says, I did those things. That was proof, that was a sign of my apostleship. And he said, besides, understand, you're not inferior as a church because I'm the one that planted you. He said, the only difference between your church and other churches is I didn't ask you to pay me a salary. I didn't take any money from you. I wasn't there to get rich. And this sarcasm part, forgive me this wrong. He said, I should have done different, okay? But here's the thing. Paul loved the people at Corinth. And probably there were some in Corinth that loved him. But everywhere Paul went, there were these people who followed, trying to destroy his ministry, trying to ruin everything that he had done. By the way, that's the devil. That's the enemy. He's the one that does that. And he uses people who are willing to be used to do that, who are willing to be negative, who are willing to be critical, who are willing to gossip, who are willing to lie. And that's what Paul was facing. That's what was going on in Paul's ministry, forcing him to spend valuable time defending himself so that he could continue to work with these people and help them to grow in their faith. It'd been so much easier for Paul to say, well, they're a lost cause, writing them off. but he wouldn't do it. He never, ever gave up. Think about that. God has you in your place of ministry for a reason. Don't give up. Be blessed. I'll see you back here tomorrow.